Welcome back to the Ripple Effect Podcast. I am super excited to bring you part two of my conversation with Sasha. I know you're probably buzzing from that first part just like I was, and I am grateful that you guys are back for the second part of our conversation. She is amazing, isn't she? I would love to hear some of your insights and what you gained from the first episode. I know there were a ton of knowledge nuggets that people probably took down. So share them with me because I know Sasha would love to know that you guys are appreciating the value of this conversation and just what came of this authentic friendship that we have that we somehow magically got recorded. So I will speak no more. I will just let you move on to episode two. But like I said before, I'd watch this twice. First time with your head, your heart, and then the second time with your Ripple Connection journal at the ready to take down the knowledge and the nuggets that Sasha shares during this episode. So thanks for coming back. Thanks as always to Sasha for the time. And honestly, I'm going to badger her again so that we can get another interview scheduled as soon as I possibly can. I need Sasha in my life on a more regular basis. I absolutely think that a lot of you will probably think the same. So thanks for being back for episode or the part two of this episode. And with no further ado, let's dive back in. Oh, you and I, now I feel really regretful that we don't just hang every week.
We
I'll
need to just start a commune where we all,
do.
like, grow old together
That's,
and,
I'm in. Sign me up. Tell me where my tent goes. I'm there.
let's
I
do it.
you touch on a couple of things, right? I love the fact that you're working on that multi-generational client, right? And that's what I would call is I like have the executive that I work with, but they are so impressed with what you do and what you've brought to their life or their career. They now want some of that magic that, goes downstream, whether it be to the spouse or whether it be to their kids. And I love that because that's a mark of a great coach, which I know you are without question. But I love that. I also love the fact that you're encouraging people to go out. Hey, it isn't about the ask, so tell me what you do question, right? Or the elevator pitch, having that perfected, the curiosity goal being I'm here at that crossroads thing is golden, right? And it would apply to just about anybody. I'm thinking about making a career shift. I'm thinking about going down this path of this technology versus that technology, or I am so out of my depth, but part of the reason I'm here is because I want to learn and I want to grow. Tell me a little bit about yourself. What brought you here? Why'd you go down this path with your career or whatever? And to your point, some of the best connections I've made had nothing to do with the networking. It came down to putting the emphasis in the conversation about helping make it safe and encouraging for that other person to open up and invite them to share a little bit about themselves. And that's where the magic is. Like that is just incredible. I remember years ago, one of the first investors, Mike Maples, that was in Microsoft, I got an
Oh,
opportunity to
Mike
meet.
is Mike is great. He was actually out in the Bay Area promoting his book, and I got to hang with him for a little bit. He's great.
So senior or junior?
Junior.
Junior. Okay, so I haven't yet met Junior. I want to really bad because I mean he is a chip off the old block. But I got to meet Senior when he was the one of the first investors in Microsoft, and everybody
Wow.
was pitching him the latest and greatest idea. And he still lives not far from outside of Austin. But I met him downtown for coffee, and I think he was expecting this. Everybody pitches him everything. Everybody's there to get something from him, maybe, right? Some sort of investment or whatever, or right
Yep.
connection. And I remember because I'm introverted and shy, I always treat every engagement as an opportunity to learn something. But because I'm shy and introverted, it's easier to put all the attention on somebody else by asking a well thought out question. So I asked him, what would your life have looked like if you had not invested in Microsoft? I mean, it just blew his freaking mind. He like had no idea where that question came from. And he started talking about some of the passions he didn't follow through with that
Wow.
weren't even tech related. And we had the most delightful conversation about his family, his upbringing, who he really envisioned himself to be, and how that was sadly different than what he had arrived at this stage. And I just remember making one comment. I'm like, well, you still got time, right? And he was like, oh my gosh, that's like what a great, great approach. He's like, what exactly were we here to meet about? I'm like, something else. I don't even want to talk about it, right? But it was amazing. Like it was the golden ticket to learning who he was and what made him tick and the mark he really wanted to leave on this world. And the reason I share that is I take it back to what I think I heard you say, which is the clients that you most like to work, with are the people who have yet to discover the power of that. Still struggle to they look at these influencers like I'd never get there. They look at the people that have really well crafted networks and be like, I'm not sure that I'm able to do that. I'm the most comfortable in my basement doing my brilliance, right? And I call that the brilliance, basement brilliance, right? If you don't have the ability to share it beyond the basement, then you're probably not going very far. And yeah, your mom may bring you the cookies, at 3 o'clock every afternoon, but that doesn't turn into revenue. And when I think about the types of clients I have most loved working with, those are the underdogs. Those are the people that they believe in themselves. They have confidence in what they're doing. They just don't know how to frame it, or they don't know how to get it in conversation. And I love expressing my approach with the ripple in that you don't start there. You, in fact, stay as far away from whatever it is that you're doing at this point because you don't want people to think that you're coming across so only focused on the pitch. And the only reason that you're trying to talk to them is because you're a Mike Maples of the world, right? You want to talk to them because you're a Mike or you're a Sasha or you're a Steve of the world. And there's curiosity there. And those curiosity conversations, that's just plain money that you're doing. And I think that it's also for me, when I look back at my career, many of the people that are of high influence that I've met all came because I didn't come with some predetermined networking BS, to try and drive a result. But I got a whole bunch of results that came of it because I didn't ask them of something right then and there. I got an opportunity to build that connection in that relationship. So I think what you're doing is brilliant. And the approach that I think you like to take is very similar to me. I'm just the guy that wants the underdog or the person that just has zero confidence. And I will be that to me is the project I love working with because every single person on this planet has something amazing to offer. It's just a matter of figuring out how to get it out there and get it up to a point where they feel comfortable to be able to share it and help them understand, hey, you belong in that lot. You belong at the front of that room, or you certainly um, should not be a shrinking violet because you're powerful beyond measure. You just need some help in coaxing along the way to get there.
How do you get them sorry, I'm gonna turn the tables on you. How do you get them to get over that initial, like, "Who am I to be doing this?" Or, like, "I'm afraid of the no." Like, how do you get them over that chasm?
Oh, I love that. Yeah, the who am I piece is really the fun one because at the end of the day, if it's not you, then who will it be? Um, I can give a list of great ideas that I came up with that I never ever took beyond my workbench or beyond the design. That there are companies out there that are making gobs of money. They did it because, probably there are no original thoughts, right? But had I done it and done it differently, then I'd be in there. But I failed to step forward and actually take my place in line and say I wanted to do it. And so I try to give them at least the benefit of some of my misses, and the fact that my lack of swing was going to guarantee that I sat on the bench, right? That I just never got any game time and never got to play. And just try to put them in the shoes of, so 5 years from now, what would happen if you don't do anything different? What will what will the outcome be if somebody else gets to that, start finish line before you do? And get them to envision, why them not taking action or them not leaning into their power and finding that confidence will actually end up being something that will create regret and potentially a swing and a miss that they're going to that they're not going to be happy with 5 years from now. So I do that. I think the other thing is no just sucks. No is hard. No is difficult. But no is part of life, right? I mean, there are many things. If you think back to when you were a kid and you're like, you go and ask your mom for a cookie and she says no, and you go back and you ask your dad and he's like, what'd your mom say? Well, yeah, well, let me let me adjust my pitch a little bit to prevent people from, or prevent him from knowing I already got a no. It's find an alternate route, find a different way to get to your yes, or at least a maybe. And to your thing that you said, maybe that 19th no is hard to take, but it gets me to my 20th. Well, maybe, or yeah, okay, that one's my yes. No is just part of what we're accustomed to. And I think honestly, now because of the world we live in, no's come a lot more fast and a lot more regular because, we as society throw up these barriers to think, hey, we don't know, we don't need what you have, and we don't want to even talk further about it. At least they give you the respect of saying no quickly, and you can move on to the next one. But it's difficult. So let me turn that back on you. What is your approach to those two things, and how do you go about it?
So, I mean, this is a big part of what I'm building towards next. I think everyone goes through these like life stages. For me, the empty nest phase is glorious. Highly recommend 5 tacos. Like, it is the best thing ever. So please don't cry when your little one leaves the nest. It is the best thing ever. But I'm thinking about what that means for me, and we started the podcast on this, but my journey with hackathons has been illuminatory, and I think, um, it's one of those things where it's like build what you yourself need, and so, like, I'm a very, very ambitious, like, I've got I could have led 12 completely different full, like, wildly, like, unlike the other lives, like, and I'm always trying to optimize. That's like the MBA in me, where, like, literally we have a degree in optimization. Like, what is the best way to get to the sales? What is the best way to cut the costs? What is, that's sort of what an MBA gives you, is that line of thinking. But, because of my background in design thinking and I worked at IDEO, I think that has saved me because it actually isn't about the yes or the no. Like, I don't even think about it in terms of the yes or the no. It's let's build something. Let's just, like, put it out there, get feedback, and it's just for me, it's about a continuous feedback loop to
Yep.
make something better. And
Yep.
that's not a yes or a no. That is like you're having conversations about what works. You've got a vision in your mind about what you can give to the world or a product that you're building, and you, like, put it out in the world for feedback. And it's not a yes or a no, it's like, "How do I keep making this better?" Along the way, people are gonna, like, give it a thumbs up and purchase it or hire you or put you on a board, or, like, click on your Substack, but you're running experiments all the time.
Yeah.
So in my mind, it's, for me, my biggest holdback, and the same is true for a lot of my clients, is like this, uh, like debilitating perfectionism. It's like as a kid, I would come, immigrant kid, I would come home with a 98 out of 100, and my dad would be like, "Where did the other 2 points go?" That was sort of the way that I grew up.
Yep.
Since I'm Ukrainian, it wasn't like a tiger dad, but he was a borscht dad,
Yeah.
like, that was my flavor of it, and so that's how I grew up, and it really took me a long time, and I think working at IDEO and thinking about design thinking, really allowed me to surmount that really debilitating weakness of, the perfectionism served me really well, and it got me into a great college, got me into a great first job out of college, and then it started not being so great because I wouldn't put stuff out in the world, or I wouldn't launch something because I'm like, "Oh, it's not perfect yet," or, "I need to wait because this other thing is gonna come along," or, "I need all of these things to" all of the things that we know perfectionism keeps you from doing. And so for me, it actually isn't about the yes or no, or constantly building something that the world needs and you need its feedback on. And that's it. And then it becomes like this playful thing where, like you go to the beach and you start building a sandcastle. You're not sure what it's going to look like. You keep doing it. Some people think it's cool. They come and join you. Some idiot comes and kicks it over. You're like, okay, so I guess we'll like build it. It is like, think about the metaphor of how, like, what my next phase is going to be. It's more of like a sandcastle approach where it's like, I know I'm gonna build something very cool. I know I'm in a space that I enjoy being in, and I know the people that are going to be in this community with me are going to be my tribe. And I think, like, the next phase for me and what I love about the hackathon and what I think that means for what I do next is building in community is so powerful,
Yep.
and, all of the most of the work that I've done so far, is either, like, group coaching or one-on-one or facilitation. I think my next phase is going to be these cohort experiences, and they're gonna be virtual and in person, but there is so much power in building together, and I think it allows you to get over, like, the fear factor and the insecurities and all of the things if you're able to do it in community. So
Oh, I love that.
that's what I'm
I think that's amazing. And I would love to know more about the cohort. And as you do those, if you could share it, we'd love to promote it through the Ripple community because I think what your approach is, a lot of people would benefit from, including me. So I'd love.
you
I,
you might be patient 0, Steve. We'll
okay,
have to
I'm
talk
in.
more.
I'm in. I'm the whole time you're speaking, I'm like, God, I love her so much. Why do I not talk to her daily? I'm like already
Same,
thinking I'm getting a
same.
realtor. I'm moving out there. I got to become your neighbor. So, so
We've got some spare bedrooms.
all
You can
right,
start here and
all
launch
right,
from
let's do
there.
it. Let's do it. All right. Well, and you also made me think of something, which is something that I'm kind of a little bit sad that I kind of went away from this when it came to no. And you just hit it. Needs, right? Like, I'm iterating, I'm adjusting, on the fly. And, there's that adage. It's not really a no is just a no right now. It's, it could be a maybe or it could be a yes in the future, right? As you continue to work on and iterate. I don't know how, but I think this applies to just about anybody or how people will take it. But, at the end of the day, I looked at no as needs only. It was an invitation for somebody to tell you why they wouldn't do business with you. But then if you could get very specific, in order for
It's
you
great.
to actually change that answer, what would it need? It only needs this, right? You're kind of reversing it, but it needs only this in order for me to get to a yes, or maybe I'd try it. And I'm thinking about my software company for a little bit. Like, I even did this morning with a prospect that basically has just been like, lead me on, lead me on. And I asked the guy, I'm like, at the end of the day, you brought in your executive team to look at what we're doing, and they brought you onto the team to be able to manage and do this thing that you're doing for the project. And what does this need in order for you to get to that yes? And I was thinking about, as you were talking about, that needs only this in order for us to do business together. And he gave me the one thing that I think if I could tell my CEO that you guys will do this or can, make this one adjustment or we could deliver this one dashboard, I think it's a no brainer. Right. And so when I think about no, and thank you for just the revelation, like the thing that I used to tell when I did a bunch of sales training is, don't take no as the negative, but turn that no into a future invitation for you to continue to engage and potentially have collaboration or a conversation. Even if it doesn't net you any revenue, you'll learn a shit ton about your customer or your prospective customer just by someone saying, look, oh, you're not going to cry over spilt milk and beat me up because I'm telling you no, I'm not going to pay you money for what you're doing now, but you'd still want to invite me in to collaborate or to dance in this arena with you. There's so much power in that. And so, thank you for that revelation to just like remind me that,
Yeah.
yeah, no, knows, knows if you take it only for the negative piece of it suck. But if you're willing to put yourself out there a little bit, some of my best connections now that I think about this have come from people that didn't agree to do business with me initially. They found out who I was, what I'm about, what I'm passionate, and why I was, um, someone worth knowing, that eventually came back and ended up doing business with me just by default. Because by that time, you built enough credibility and trust that they were curious enough to want to, sign on for, 1.A, right? or, the next iteration of your idea.
Steve, can I layer an additional thing on top? Because
Oh,
I love that we're like we're riffing on each other so beautifully. So there's another I actually love the no because I don't even look at it as a no. And I love that we keep on talking about this because I think this is the biggest thing that holds people back from putting themselves out there and networking. For me, it's data, and that's like what the iterative prototype
Yep.
process is. You're just getting data.
Yep.
So, if the data is your product sucks, that is great data. And it's like the same thing, like, I view, like, a whatever you're, like, on the lookout for, whether it's, like, looking for a job or getting funding or getting a sale, um, it's very much like dating. Like, it is always the best analogy, and if you keep getting a ton of no's, you gotta take a good look at yourself, like, what's going on? And it's great data, like, you could sit there in a corner and take it personally and weep but that's not the point. The point is, like, if you're actually the best thing to do is, like, neutralize it and look at the data, and then just keep iterating. So I love the back and forth, and I think that there's the fact that we, like it's understandable that we put, like, this emotionality to it, but if you can actually, like, take that off the table and just be like, "It's just data."
Yeah.
It's a that is such a game changer.
Oh, it is. And if you apply that just data to the gamification piece, then you embrace the fact that you're going to have people that won't just beat a path to your door for every great idea you have out there. You're going to have to take some, some lumps along the way. But if you
Oh, yeah.
don't look at it as let me shut the door and I don't care what they think, but actually open that a little bit and say, even though you don't want to do it today or you don't want to, sign up, could I come back to you just for some iterative feedback? I mean, you obviously saw enough in this to have a meeting or to let me do my demo or whatever, but
Mhm.
could I come back because you're someone that even in our brief interactions I've really come to respect and admire. And I
Yeah.
I think that I would love to just continue to stay in your orbit a little bit if you're open to it, but you may actually help, make this thing better even if you go with a competitor or even if you never go with this product or service. How many people in a business or sales development role would ever actually do that, right?
Yeah,
None.
I mean, think about what you just said, like, if the way for anyone who's listening to this that's not in sales, if they hear the way that you've approached this, like, I hope that it's like the emoji of, like, the brain exploding. Like, that's what I like, it's like most of the time, it's like, "Are you gonna buy or not?" That's how
Yeah,
most people think about
the
sales.
definitive. Boom. Yeah.
Yeah, this black and white thinking, and I think and some people might have um, like, a bit of a snarky reaction to that, which might
Yeah.
be like, "Oh, you're just trying to, like, just stay in their orbit to sell that to them again." But if your genuine thing is, "I wanna make this product just absolutely kick ass," and you're someone that's actually giving me real feedback, it is so valuable. Thank you for trying to make this better. I don't even want to sell it to you. In fact, don't buy my product. I just want you to give me feedback. Like, there are ways that you can kind of, like, it's just a very unusual approach, and here's the thing, this is, like, the best part of it. It really comes from this authentic, core from you, Steve, of, like, "I really wanna make this a better product."
Yep.
That is the secret. Honestly, that's the core of what's underneath what both of us are talking about, is, like, how do you have authentic relationships,
Yeah.
period.
I'm it gives me chills. I mean, you and I are aligned in so many different ways, but and we approach
Yeah.
things maybe a little bit different, but at the end of the day, the commitment to what we want to drive and what we want to do, I think is fantastic. When I think about you doing the hackathons and putting yourself in a space that you weren't necessarily comfortable with because you wanted to be uncomfortable because there were things that you wanted to learn, and one of the best ways to learn it is to be around people who are probably unaware that they're teaching at the same time as they're offering or promoting or sorry, developing. But what a great master class on how to get that experience. If you are willing to put yourself out there, imagine the outcome and the potential value you bring to your life. Not only are you stimulating something new to get excited about, and that's good. I mean, that's a mood changer. It's hits you right in your core, but also kind of pushes you, whether you're extroverted or introverted, to look at things and do things a little bit different, to challenge yourself to do something outside the norm. And what's the worst that could happen, right? Either somebody's like, "Well, I don't know why you keep showing up with these things. You're not a developer." Like, yeah, well, did you know you wanted to be a developer before you became a developer? I mean, what if you were going to teach me 5 things that were most important and you wish you had learned before becoming a developer that you wish somebody had taught you? And would you be willing to share those things? I'm not saying you have to teach me, not saying you have to spend time to give me the master class on it, but imagine taking that conversation from you don't belong to, oh, hell, you definitely belong. You're exactly the kind of person I would love to talk to, or I'd love to teach, or impart a little wisdom, or share my story, or my background and my history, because nobody else asks me about these things. Right? I just think there's so much value there. It's just mind blowing in terms of how cool this conversation turned out to be for my audience. So, Sasha and I are like, what are we going to talk about today? I'm like, I know we will talk about something. I had a game plan, but we went the other direction.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I love that because I think when you meet what I call dance partners or co-collaborators, and I think that you guys could probably see if Sasha and I were to like decide we were going to do a startup together, the energy level would just be off the charts, right? Because we could just figure these things out because we don't need to be the expert. We'll get the expertise or associate ourselves with the people who have that can help us accelerate our progress. But I think that having this type of conversation, having this type of interaction with another human being, that's the whole premise of the ripple, right? It's the whole there's gold in those hills if you're willing to dig for it. And that's where I think a lot of people fall short is they're just not willing to go beyond the norms and try things that are different or get outside their lane and their comfort level and do things like you're doing. I mean, you are, my friend, a big inspiration to me and how you approach life, how you're approaching your work, and why you're a freaking kick-ass coach. I mean, I am in awe. I am just absolutely in awe.
Well, I appreciate you, Steve. I was complimenting you from head to toe up front, but I think, um, one of for those that don't already know this, like, you are the personification of a portfolio life, like, I could there are, like, 12 concepts I'd love to talk about right now, but let's close on this.
Yeah.
This idea of, like, you run your own company, you've got the podcast, you have this member community, you're, like, very actively involved in a lot of communities that are personally important for you. You've got, like, the athleticism piece, like, that's a big identity part for you as well. And I think that there is a agility in living life, like, all of it at in the d in the moment versus, like, "Oh, I need to wait till this period of life to do this." But you're like, "No, I can just, like, build a whole portfolio now. I'm just gonna do it my way if that's okay." It is beautiful to witness, and it is inspirational to me, and I know that a big part of your community is in your community because of that. So I'm just giving it a conceptual framework, but you are the personification of a portfolio life well lived.
Well, I've never heard it like phrased that way, but thank you for being like one of the only people on the planet that actually recognizes me for that. That's awesome. I just need a little mini Sasha like on my shoulder all the time. If we're gonna come up with a product, I think it should be mini
There
Sasha.
we go. We might need to prototype that.
That would be badass. Like, just that would be awesome. But thank you for that. I mean, that acknowledgement, of you reframing what I do and how I do it in that way really actually gives me a whole new perspective, and I'm grateful for that. So thank you. I
Anytime, anytime.
so Sasha, we're gonna have to do a follow up because I think there's like a bunch of stuff that I really want to talk to you about that we didn't get to today. But I
We
want
need
to be
to launch our own podcast, Steve, is what I'm
yeah, we
feeling.
should. We should. When I'm living in your next room, that'll be perfect.
It'll be easy. We'll just get put
We're
a podcast
good. But
studio in there.
I want to be respectful of your time. Do you have just a few more minutes that we could,
Yeah.
or you need to jump?
No, 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 we're good.
Okay.
We're good.
So I always like to wrap these up because I think people are going to be in love with you without question. There's no doubt. But we always ask these ripple connection questions. They're kind of fun to
Sure.
ask and fun to answer. They just give a little bit more insight. Um,
Okay.
you coming from the Ukraine, and when did you move from the Ukraine to the United States?
So I moved from Ukraine, when I was 4.
Okay. So, what is growing up in a Ukrainian family in the United States? What is something that you're super proud of that you learned from that upbringing?
Gosh, what a great question. I don't know if it's anything specific to um, for to Ukrainian families or Slavic families, but I think growing up as an immigrant kid is, like, first and foremost my, like, primary identity. So
Yeah.
I'm a woman, but I'm an immigrant woman. Like, I went to these great schools, but I'm an immigrant kid that went to these great schools. And so, I think that and I think coming at that age, not that I had any influence over it, but because I came at such a young age, it just gave me this like, I think I'm forever that kid that
Yeah.
was like, "Oh, this is super cool, like, I get to learn a new language," versus, like, I think for other members in my family, it was brutally hard, like, I mean, imagine learning I think my dad, if I'm getting my math right, my dad was 40 when he came, imagine learning English at 40.
Wow.
My sister was 11, like, the worst time to move in general, but imagine moving and you don't know the language and you're, 11 years old.
Put into your
Um
teenage years. Oh, yeah.
yeah, and so we were I mean, my parents were very highly educated, but had to work these minimum wage jobs to get by in the beginning, and so I think what it gave me, just like many other immigrant kids, is this really amazing resourcefulness, and for me, I think my particular flavor I don't think every immigrant kid has this varietal of it, but for me, like, learning new things is fun. Like, I remember, when, I lived in Brazil for 2.5 years, 3 years, right after it was part of my first job after when I was a consultant, and I just, like, dove into learning Portuguese, and, the all of the other consultants, they were like, "Oh, we're gonna practice English," like, and I had to, like the way that I they didn't have Duolingo at the time, so I was like, "Look, I'll cut you a deal. I will actively correct your English, but you have to actively correct my Portuguese."
Oh, that's
And
awesome.
and in Portuguese, you say fechado, which means closed, done deal. And so, it was great because what they would do and it was always like give, 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 and then make the ask, because they would say something in English, and I would always correct them. And if you're like for anyone that's learned another language, people love that because no one does that. People think that, like, the person that could potentially give feedback holds back from it because they think they're embarrassing the person.
Yeah.
But I taught my parents English, and I know, like, the way that you improve is by continuous feedback from a place of love. Like, if you don't care about somebody, you're not gonna bother giving them feedback.
Right.
Now,
That's
you
right.
don't do it in an embarrassing way, you don't do it in a big public venue, but if you're having one-on-one or small group conversation, you're like, "Oh, no, it's this." Like, in Spanish and Portuguese, a lot of the prepositions, like, you can like, in Spanish or Portuguese, it's like, "I dream on something," versus in English, you'd say, "I dream of something," and you would never like, there are all these, like, little things that I would gently be like, "Oh, it's this," and they're like, "Thank you, Sashinha." And
That's
so the
so
give, and then it made my learning rate with Portuguese was so fast because I was like four-year-old Sasha. I wouldn't care that
cool.
I would make mistakes. I, like, cut loving deals with the people around me being like, "I really want you to correct it. Like, please, 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 if I say something wrong, like, I will, like, cherish it."
Yeah.
And so, like, learning something new and, like, critical feedback for me was just feedback. Again, like, dial it down, dial in like, what you think is negative is actually a gift. Like, again, there are different ways to do this. There are people who are, like, don't do it well, and they're kind of like, the intent is to hurt people. But for most part, people shy away from giving feedback, and it kills me because
Yeah.
feedback is such a gift, and I think the biggest blessing for me as an immigrant kid was the resourcefulness, the curiosity, the fearlessness, um, like, invite feedback, like, actively invite feedback, and I think like, a lot of it is pure luck, like, I don't think I would have been who I am if I was 11 years old or if I was 30 years old when I immigrated.
Wow, that's cool. And what I really loved what you said is, and there is a difference. Seek out people who will provide you the feedback and ask them for that, not criticism, right? And almost explain the difference between it, right? Because what you did was gamify that process to say, look, I want you to do it. I'll do the same for you, but there's got to be a mutual exchange. And that is what creates great connection. And you eliminate the awkwardness of me saying, hey, you just misspoke, or you said that in a way that probably isn't as clear as it needed to be. So let me give you that feedback rather than, oh, you said that wrong. You know, like there's a huge lesson in just what you shared right there, which actually brings me to a conversation or a question on immigration right now is a really hot topic in this country, right? What would you like people who maybe have not had the pleasure of meeting someone like you or had, anybody that is immigrated to the United States, what would you like them to know about the immigrant kids and the immigrant families and the gift and the gold that there is with them if they're willing to step into and embrace them? Wasn't exactly a Ripple Connection question I was going to ask, but man, it was.
Yeah, I'm like, wow, we're going into something very provocative. So I'm pausing because I think that uh, there's no one answer. There's no like monolith of immigrants.
Sure.
So I think um, I can't answer for there. There's no one answer. I will say um, there is. What's the pause? Um, what do I want people to know about immigrants? I actually I think the pause is I don't know if that is the right question. So I'm going to actually push back on the question because it's not like there's one way to look at immigrants. I think that the other question is like how do you what's a productive way to look at someone that comes from a very different background than you? Period. Um, and I'll give an example that's very close to home. Like, my husband and I are both immigrant kids that come from very humble families. Like, we've made our own path through, like, a lot of hard work and some great decisions, but also a lot of luck. And we've sent our kids to some really great schools, and I remember my dad going to, the private high school where we sent our oldest daughter, which is, like, very resourced, and, we were having lunch together, and he's like, "Are they gonna be able to have conversations with real people? Like, with, like, salt of the earth people?"
Yeah.
Um, and it was like he said that out of, um from a point of, like, we came from this very humble place. We grew up with very humble people. Like, the high school that I went to was a very normal public high school in Long Island, and, lots of, like, blue collar people that, like, were born, lived, and will die in that town,
Yeah.
and, like, the loveliest human beings you will ever meet. And he asked just a really great question, which is, like, how do you create bridges with people that don't have your background? So, I hope it's okay that I switch the question around because I think
I love
the
that.
immigration question is it's a tricky one because there are some great immigrants, there are some not so great immigrants. Like, I feel like that is a tougher question to ask, but I
Sure.
think to answer, but I think that the question of what do you want how do you want to be around someone who's very different from you? And I see this all the time in Silicon Valley and in tech where, um, like, women get shortchanged in rooms.
Yeah.
I don't know what the number is now, but, like, the fact that, like, under 5% of founders are women is how? Like, how is that happening? Like, you will not meet, that should not be the case, and this isn't a DEI thing, this is a literal, like, how like,
Just
we get asked different questions.
yeah.
We get asked different questions. Um, and so this is a challenge that I have for everyone, which is, um, I think that there's an empathy piece, which is like when you're asking a question to somebody, be like, am I asking them this question because they are fill in the blank,
Yeah.
whatever the other group is for
Yeah.
them. am I asking this question of this female founder because she's a woman? Like, I went to an event last week where this incredible woman with this amazing idea that will reduce, like, the energy toll of AI, she was pitching, and the VC was like, "So, when do you think you're gonna start a family? Like, that's gonna influence how much money I'm gonna like, if I'm gonna fund you." I was like, "I thought we were beyond this at this point." But so I think whenever, from the perspective of the person that is in the position of power to be like, "Am I asking this question like, would I ask this question of a like, if it were somebody else?"
You never
But
asked that
moreover
ever, right? Like,
yeah.
why would you ask that question?
Yeah, and from the person that's receiving that question, because you can't
Uh,
control how other people are
yeah,
going to behave. But from the person that's receiving that question, be like, "I hear your question, but I have another question back, which is, would you be asking this of a male founder? Because
yeah,
my technology speaks for itself." Like, there's a way that you can kind of reframe it. Um, so I just wanna empower everyone to be both more empathic, but also raise the bar.
yeah.
So if somebody is asking questions that have this undercurrent of, "Wait, you're actually diminishing what I bring to the table," like, I feel like it is within your right to, again, benevolently educate them.
Yeah. I love that. I think one of the things that I hear sort of the underlying theme that you touched on earlier though is be curious. Like look at the opportunity to learn from this immigrant that comes from some different country, some different culture, had a different way of living, different way of being raised, maybe a different educational path, but how is it that life brought you two into this space at this time right now? And if it, you can look at each other by roles, you can look at each other by, all these things that denote status or what have you. But the life offered you a gift to learn from this person. And I go back, and I guess the reason I asked that question is thinking all the way back to when you and I first sort of stood next to each other and we were, drinking our drinks or our beers or whatever while, we were at Bootstrap Austin.
Yeah.
Being curious enough to talk to the other human doesn't matter where the hell they came from, how they got here. They're here now, and the opportunity for you to learn from them and them to learn from you, that could be the gift that, was supposed to be given to both of you if you just take the time to do it. So, um, yeah, anyway, I didn't mean to get you on the gotcha question. That wasn't my
No,
intent.
no,
I
it
love
wasn't
your
it was
answer.
I know it
Loved where
wasn't
you took it.
intended. I know it wasn't intended as such, but I'm also very mindful about not like, for questions that might have, like, a monolithic,
Sure.
bent to
Not a
it,
one size fits
like,
all kind of
I
situation.
wanted I wanted to reframe it, which because I think
Sure.
that was and correct me if I'm wrong, I think that's what was underneath the question. Like,
Yes.
how do you interact
Absolutely.
with somebody who's very different from you? And I think, like, my biggest ahas have almost always come from people with a wildly different background. Almost that by definition, that's where you're going to have the biggest leap if you're open to approaching it with genuine curiosity about where that person is coming from.
Absolutely, without question. I love that. We could do a whole podcast on that one. We just start making our list. Anyway,
That's
all right, we'll go to a lighter question. Well, maybe. We'll see. What is because you are a female entrepreneur and there is such continue which pisses me off that there's such disparity in terms of whether it's funding or just women that are in leadership roles within the Inc. 500 or excuse me the Fortune 500. What's the advice you give to? I mean, you have obviously young girls that'll eventually
Oh,
be
they're not
moving.
young. They're
That's right,
they're young adults in the
young
world.
adults. That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, I mean they're just starting their careers.
Right.
What advice would you give to them and to anyone else that's at that phase about like, yes, the world has presented a bunch of obstacles. So what? Here's what you should do with it. What advice would you give them as they begin to enter into these arenas where maybe, the numbers are stacked against them or there's, circumstances that maybe aren't exactly fair. But what advice would you give to the young entrepreneur starting their own business or someone that's moving into a career path where they're, part of a larger corporate organization?
Um, so you mentioned the, like, bringing people into the Colosseum.
Yeah.
My advice is to befriend the lion.
Yeah.
Like,
Um,
So I think, like, here's the reality, like, you whenever possible, like,
Yep.
be the one that creates like, there's no meritocracy. I just don't believe in meritocracy. Like, I believe in it, I just don't think it's possible. And, I think that they're like, you need to be really good, but you need to have, like, great alliances. And there's, like, a to the extent that you can create, like, an amazingly unfair advantage, you do that. You find the great communities, you go to the great schools, you get into the groups where people will be your allies. Um, like, I remember, like, right when I got to Silicon Valley, there was a panel that I went to where there was a woman. I mean, imagine, so this was 20 years ago. There was a woman that was working at, I wanna say Sun Microsystems, like, how's
Okay.
that for a blast from the
Oh, that
past?
jeez. Yeah.
And she was saying that she was the only woman at, like, her executive level, like, she wasn't at the upper echelon, she was, like, at maybe the VP or SVP level, that made money on the IPO because she had conversations with guys about, like, what's the best way to, like, structure her contract and what to ask for, and they would
Wow.
be like, Do you want this number of shares, or would you rather have that um, as, like, money in the bank?"
Yeah.
And because she had those conversations, she was able to kinda make the decisions that would then allow her to get the upside. I'm like, "Yeah, that's how you
Yeah.
do it." And so this isn't like when I say, like, get an unfair advantage, people are like, "Ooh, that sounds very, like, Machiavellian." Like, that sounds very like the art of war.
Yeah.
Um, but I think that there's, like, y conversations are the way in, always.
Yep.
And
Always.
she bothered to have conversations with people that came in from a different perspective, and I think my advice is don't only be in your head. If there's something you're not sure about, like, you'll never fully know, but you've like, ask 3 people, ask 10 people, better yet, ask 20 people,
Yep.
and you'll get at a better answer for you. I think that women don't have enough conversations with, people that really, really know. I think, um, we tend to, like, be in our comfort circle, which is amazing and fantastic for certain things, but if you wanna be a titan of industry, if you wanna have a successful startup, if you, wanna be an incredible thought leader, um, you have to have a lot of conversations, and that, in effect, will allow you to have amazingly unfair, like, an unfair advantage, which is, I mean, that's like the underpinning of, like, if you're looking at the bell curve of success, that's what allows you to be on that, like, that better tail of the curve.
I love that. That's such fantastic advice. What is the book that you recommend the most to entrepreneurs, business owners, your coaching clients?
Wow, there's so many. I'm, like, such a nerd about that stuff. Um
Give me your top 3. How about that?
So, I mentioned the one thing. I think the one thing is incredibly powerful. If you actually really understand that book and use the tools that they give, you will have a wildly differently better life.
Agreed. Yeah.
So I love the one thing. So I will share the other, is it okay if I don't just do books? I do podcasts
Sure.
and
Sure.
other
Oh,
things.
that'd be
So I'm a huge fan for anyone that's really curious about AI. I really love, the AI Daily Brief.
Oh, yeah.
It's 20, 30 minutes every day. It's just brilliant. Like, I have been able to like, really ramp up my learning curve listening to
oh,
that,
that's great. Yeah.
and, sometimes he gets technical, but it's always within reach. So for those that are really like, "I need to understand this AI thing," the AI Daily Brief is great. And then, the third is really more of an approach than a, like, a concrete recommendation because, again, I don't wanna I think that that's sort of the better way to do it, is, like, I would make sure that there's something new that you wanna learn and get, like get 3 resources on it that you dive into. Like, have it be 1 podcast, 1 Substack, and then subscribe to, like, 1 Luma calendar of events related to that one thing, and get on it. Like, I think so one is like a literal book, the other one is for those that want to understand AI, and the third is an approach.
I love that. Oh, what a perfect answer. I love that so
Mhm.
much. Okay, last 2 questions and I'll let you go. When you hear the term the ripple effect, what does that bring to mind for you? What does that
Yeah.
conjure up?
It conjures up a couple of things. I think what I love about the concept, and I think it's so perfect for the work that you do, is we really have a duality in us as human beings. On one hand, we are absolute nothingness relative to the history of the universe.
Yep, very true.
So, so genuinely, you could say nothing that we do effectively matters. Nothing really matters, so, like, make the most of it. So so in my mind, that's sort of like the optimistic nihilism, which is stop making such a big deal out of everything. Like, stop sweating the small stuff, and it's all small stuff. And so, I think the ripple effect is really get really clear on what kind of difference you want to make, and then jump in.
That's good.
That's it.
I love that. Oh, money right there. That's fantastic. All right. What positive ripple can I be looking to create for you?
Just that I mean, this conversation already, but, yeah, I'm really excited about the things that I'm planning on launching over the summer, and, would love for you to be a partner in that. So we'll
I'm in.
the ripple is let's keep chatting because I feel like uh, we inspire one another, and we come at it from different backgrounds and approaches, and it's just been great.
That's an easy ask. I'm happy to do that and support you any way I can. Sasha,
Awesome.
what's the yeah, I lied. There's one last question, but this is mainly just because I know people will be absolutely chomping at the bit to learn. How do people learn about you, your work, get engaged in what you're doing?
I mean, please connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm a LinkedIn zealot. Like, there are things that LinkedIn is doing that cause me dismay, but in the end, it is the platform. So please connect with me on LinkedIn. My website will have all the latest and greatest about what I'm doing. That's Catapult Circles is my company, so catapultcircles.com. And I'm gonna be launching a Substack.
Mm,
So, that'll be both on LinkedIn and my website. So,
I love that. We'll put that in the show notes so everybody's got links to all of that, those resources. Sasha, thank you so much for the time today.
uh,
We went longer than we
this is
expected, but I am so grateful for the depth of our conversation and what we covered. And you are just you're amazing in every respect. And I'm so grateful that we had this opportunity to sit down and have the conversation. But more importantly, all that I think it's going to stimulate in terms, I mean, now I'm moving in. So I mean, look at all the different places that we took this conversation. But no, at the end of the day, I'm just super grateful that after all these years and even the geographic difference between where we are,
Yeah.
on not only physically, but the fact that we've continued to stay in contact. And I'm a little reticent in the fact that we should have played a bigger part in each other's entrepreneurial journeys over the course of this last 20 years. But
It's only
don't
too
have
late
much
if we
time.
don't start now.
That's
So,
exactly.
we're good.
Oh, we are going to continue to focus on that, but
Alright.
I just want to say thank you. You are an inspiration to me. You always have been, and I can't wait till we have the next conversation.
Same, Steve. I'm so excited that you reached out. I'm so grateful for this chance to talk with you and your community, and this is the beginning of both of our next chapters. So let's, like, join arms and continue
Let's do
forth.
it. Let's do it. I
Awesome.
can't. I am so grateful. Thank you, guys. We'll be back with another episode of the Ripple Effect podcast very soon. But until then, Sasha, ripple on.
Ripple on.